Chris, thanks for joining us. What is the Kremlin saying about this incredible story?
Well, a couple of times a week, there's a conference call with reporters that they have in that big red building with the clock on it behind me. That is the Kremlin. They had that today, and Dmitry Peskov, the chief spokesperson, was asked about this right off the bat. His response was that this was a tragic incident, but one that the Kremlin knows nothing about. He said that Britain has not yet, anyway, asked for any help in its investigation, but if that request is made, Russia will help. And he also mocked a fair bit the line that's coming out of the British media that Russia had to have something to do with this, and he suggested, well, what would you expect? Of course, there's many other avenues for reaction to be channeled, including the media here. The story hasn't received, fair to say, widespread coverage in the Russian media, but you have heard to some extent some scoffing that Sergei Skripal was not important enough to warrant any kind of an assassination. They point out the fact that he's been in Britain for 8 years, he was in jail in Russia before that, and a lot of the things he knew about came from the 1990s. Having said that, when people have mysteriously died outside of Russia before Russians, this is also a similar line you've also heard several times. There's also been conspiracy theories floated here as well that, well, this had to have been an act by British intelligence just to make Russian intelligence and the Kremlin look bad. So lots of theories floating around. Certainly nothing in the way of acceptance. The Kremlin is saying, not us, had nothing to do with it.
Plenty of reminiscent of the Cold War charge and countercharge, but one reason this does seem to have so much resonance, this latest incident, is because of the memories of another former spy who was poisoned a few years ago. Remind us of that, Chris.
Well, Alexander Litvinenko was well, he was murdered in London more than a decade ago, and the situation is eerily similar. He died after drinking a sip of tea from a hotel in London, and it was a big mystery what it was that killed him. What was the poison? They had a big inquiry, and they concluded, in fact, that it was a radioactive substance, and it had left trails, in fact, all around London, and the official inquiry pointed the finger clearly at the Kremlin, even the people at the very top of the Kremlin, Vladimir Putin. So again, Russia denied everything, wasn't us. They said they had nothing to do with that. Again today, they're saying they have nothing to do with this incident playing out now.
Thanks for this, Chris. CBC's Moscow correspondent, Chris Brown.